Hello and welcome, and today I'm going to be going more in depth into factions. So I've gotten some questions about editing the configuration files, so I'm going to be answering those and more. So what I have set up right now is two factions. I have the one that I'm in, which is, if I do /f list, which I already have up, see I'm in test 2, and then test 1 is created. So test 2 has some faction land, and when I go and I try to open their chest, it doesn't let me, and I can't build in there. But then when I come into my land, I can build. If I place a chest, I can open it. There's diamond over there from showcase. Try to pick that up. See, it always gets me. I told you it would get you. But anyway, so we're gonna move into the editing of the configs to fix to go over more of this. So right now I have it set up. If I do /f power, I had to change the power, or /f space power. I had to change the power system so that my power is 100, and that starts at 100. I'll tell you how to change that though in a second. So here I'm going to open up the config. So again, this is the F. This is just the base command. This is all pretty much a bunch of stuff that you don't want to touch, because if you're getting new players to the server who are already been experienced with factions, you don't really want to change it up on them. You want to make sure that they can get in and feel right at home into the plugin. So first thing that you can change is the max power. So this is the amount of power that a player can have, and right now, so they can't go above that. So right now it's set at 100, and then the minimum amount of power they have is the least amount of power that they could have. Like, they lose power from dying, so this is the lowest that it can go, and that's -10. And this is on joining the server. So if you want them to have full power, which I recommend, so that they can start claiming land and doing other things, so that they don't have to like go out and attack somebody, just so they can build a like a faction. I recommend setting it at whatever you're putting your max power to, and then the max power, if you, let's say it's at a really high number, you're going to allow them to claim a lot of land with one person, and it's going to allow a lot more land claiming than would be normally. And then power per minute is the power regen. So I set mine at 100 because I need my power to regen really quickly for this demonstration, but a good power per minute, depending on yours, could be like 0.2, so that like every 5 minutes they gain power, or they gain 1 power. You can make it 0.1, so every 10 minutes. You can make it higher, like they gain 1 every minute, really rewarding them. 0.5 probably be the highest that I could go, so for every 2 minutes they gain another power. It gives them a really good chance to recover, but I would recommend 0.2, just because 5 minutes they gain another piece of power, and then another power after another 5 minutes, and it adds up. And then this is the amount of power they lose per death. I would base this, like with 100, I like 5, so that you can like keep on dying, and if you're getting spawn killed, you're not too messed up, because you can get spawn killed with the F home and spawn. Power regen offline, I would actually, depending on the amount of people that you have on your server, I would turn this to true. So this is going to allow, if somebody rages, it's going to make them more likely to come back. I've been on servers where power doesn't regen at all, and online and offline, and it's not good. That once you get beat down, you can't. It's really hard to get back up, and I ended up just deleting that from the server list. I think it was in my server list for one of these videos, and then I took it off because I got raided, and then it was over. I wouldn't recommend doing loss per day. Then you're just like kind of hurting people that can't necessarily get on every day. Then max faction power. I don't know if depending on if you have factions forming, or you expect factions to form with like upwards of 20 people, you might want to have a cap there so they can't claim like the whole map or ridiculous chunks of the map. But I would also base it off like your max player power. So like I would say maybe like 10 players power coming together that you can actually use. That would probably work out pretty well. But again, that's just all about how much land you want them to be able to claim, and if you're having people claim too much land, then you can lower that. Faction tag length minimum, and this is just how long their name has to be, so it has to be at least 3 characters long, but it can't be more than 10. It's fine. Force uppercase, like it has to be all caps. It doesn't really need, that doesn't need to be changed because it's false, and so that doesn't have to be all uppercase. You don't want to be forcing it, because then every time you walk into a faction, it really like screams out at you, and you don't really need that. Open on default, I would put this as false, because what can happen is if it's open on default, that means that you don't need an invite to join, and a lot of players won't know that, so people will just leave their faction, join another one, F home, steal their stuff, and then come back and leave the faction, and then that turns out really bad. So I'll leave this on false. You don't want it to be open on default. Faction member limit, I would actually, depending on, let's say you have 200 people, if you have 25 people in a faction, that's probably not a good idea. Generally I would recommend 10 to 15, just because then you're allowing people, if they have a lot of friends, then they can do that. And then it also like forces people to form alliances, and you have more PvP, faction versus faction. So I would say 10 is a good number. And then player starting ID, that doesn't matter. That's just a data storage option. That's not important. Show map faction key. So you can do /fmap and it'll show you where the factions are. For a PvP server, I would put this as false, because it blatantly gives away where factions are, and it kind of demotes the using of the plugin. Where neutral factions are on the map, and enemy. Neutral factions I would also put on false, but enemy factions, that's kind of up to you, because you can promote more fighting with enemy factions, because then you know who you're targeting, and then it's easier to find their land. So that one can go either way. Can leave with negative power. That's just if you have less than 0 power, it doesn't allow you to leave. I would put that as yes, because you want to give them as much freedom as possible. Faction only chat, whether you want that to be enabled, whether or not they have faction tags, I would leave this on true. Insert stuff before and after. So if you wanted, I don't know, something like and then the faction name, then you could do, or that's after, you want that before, like and I would say the blank faction. Generally I wouldn't change that, because that just makes it too cluttered in chat. That's not important. If you want padding before it, padding is like spaces. It's really unimportant. You can add it. I would recommend some padding after, but not before, because then you're just pushing it too far into the middle of the screen. This is just some color stuff. Chat tag format, it's not really important. Okay, so this is some more mechanical stuff. So auto leave after days of inactivity. So it will automatically make you leave your faction after you haven't been on for 10 days. I would make this a month. 31 days. Or 30 days. We'll just do 30 days. Just because that gives them plenty of time. If they don't come back after a month, then they're probably not coming back. Yeah, every 5 minutes, that's fine. You don't really need to change how often it runs it. I would recommend that, because that will allow, if you want their data to be removed when banned, because one, that's kind of a punishment when they get banned if you unban them, and also if you don't unban them, it relieves some clutter and gets a little better performance, a little faster loading. World Guard checking, that only applies if you're actually using World Guard. I would, if you're turn this on if you actually are using it. So true if you're using World Guard, true if you're using LWC, so true. I haven't really seen any of this working. I wouldn't recommend resets on faction land. That's kind of a bad idea with LWC, just because then anybody can go in. If they claim the land where your chests are, they instantly have access to them. You can log different things. I wouldn't log. I really wouldn't log most of this. If you're having trouble with lags, I would put this on false, but it's good to have it. You don't really need it. Whether you want them to be able to have homes, I would leave that on true. Must be in claimed territory, definitely true, because then they can just set F home anywhere. It's kind of useless. Teleport to home on death, I would put this on false, because that leads to spawn killing. Make them do /F home. Respawn from no power lost worlds. I would put this, I would just leave it the way it is. I'm not really sure what that is. Home teleport command enable, yeah, you want that. Essentials integration, yeah, you want that. Smoke effect, there's just some other stuff that you don't really need. Thickness, you don't really need to change that. Teleport home, allow enemy distance. So if an enemy is in a certain radius of blocks with you, I would put it at actually as 64 blocks. In a radius of that block, then they can't teleport home. It allows it makes it harder for them to like PvP log and PvP teleport. Homes teleport, ignore enemies if own territory. Yeah, I would agree, because if you're owned territory, you should be able to teleport regardless of whether or not there's enemies there. That's just whether or not you're in your own territory. Disable PvP between neutral factions. That doesn't really need to happen. That's fine. Disable PvP between factionless players. I wouldn't recommend that, because you don't really want to force them to use the plugin, especially if they don't know how to use it. Enable PvP against factionless in attacker's land. So this is whether or not you want to enable PvP against factionless in attacker's land. This is, just leave it the way it is. They have it there for a reason. I'm not really sure what that is. No PvP damage to others for seconds after login. So this is like a grace period. I would leave this 10 seconds is good. Peaceful territory, disable PvP. Generally the territory you want to leave the same for peaceful. You're not going to have a lot of peaceful factions. Permanent factions, disable leader promotion. That doesn't really matter. I don't think permanent factions are a good idea. If you want to disable promotion so players can't move up and take power in a permanent faction, that's fine. If you want specific leaders in a faction, that's fine. Then you would set that to true if you don't want the leaders to change within a faction. That's permanent. Claims must be connected. I would set that as true, because then they can just claim off people's bases. And then claims can be unconnected. I would set that to false, because you don't want them to claim right next to your factions and then select S home, and then just let them have F home there, and then they can automatically teleport to people's bases. It's really unfair. Claims require minimum faction members. 1, you don't want them to force players to have 5. But again, all of these are really up to your choice. I'm explaining them, but I'm also going over what I would use. Radius claim failure limit, that doesn't really need to be changed. Consider factions really offline after X minutes. You don't need to change that. That's just yeah, don't touch that. Action denied, pain amount. Not sure what pain is. If you know what it is, then you'll probably understand that. Permanent faction members may deny commands. So this is just denying commands for players in neutral factions and players in permanent factions. You don't really need to edit that. So these are the commands that will be denied, that you will not be able to use in enemy factions. So home, set home, spawn. So you won't be able to do any of that with essentials and stuff in an enemy faction, which is good. If you want people to TP away in enemy factions, it's generally a bad idea, but if you want, you would just delete all of this. Territory shield factor, that's fine. You just leave the way it is. Territory deny build. Yeah, you don't want other players to be able to build their faction. Pain build, false, yeah. Deny usage, yeah, you want to deny the usage of denied materials, which is down. It's down in here. Deny build when offline, or never mind, we already did that. Enemy build, yeah, I would just leave this all the same if you want the land to be protected. If you're going to use it just as like a team PvP plugin, I would recommend another plugin. It's called the X Team, which I'll be making another video on. So I would just leave all of this the same. Allow, deny, block TNT. I would actually do block TNT when offline, so they won't be able to use TNT in your base when people are offline, or TNT won't be able to explode in your base, because then they can't really protect themselves when they're offline. It's just that's the way. It's better to work that way. Deny Enderman blocks. I would recommend that be true. No one likes Endermans. I would actually, when we go over essentials, I would recommend blocking Enderman altogether. They're pretty much worthless. Safe zone deny build. I wouldn't change any of this Warzone stuff, just because that's the way Warzone should work and safe zone should work. Owner territory. You should enable that because people may want to set specific owners to land in factions. That's good when factions get bigger. Then everybody can have their own little chunk of land without worrying about being griefed from another person in their faction. Yeah, moderators. Now you want moderators to bypass. Yeah, that's fine. And then you want the admins to be able to set it, that's pretty much already set up. Then public land, different messages that you can change. And then here we'll get down, this is what the question was about, how to use the deny build. So territory is protected material. So right now chests are protected. I showed you that. Right here, if I go to the enemy chest over here, I can't open it. And then, but when I delete it, that still won't work because no one's online in the faction. So if I delete it right here, and I hit save, and then I stop the server, I close that. No, I don't need to save it again. And then if I run the server again, I should be able to open their chest. And if I go over here, I'm still not able to open their chest. Let me just go back and check here. All the territory, protect materials, I'll do that there too. I'll delete both of them. And then I'll shut this off. The last time I did this worked for me fine. Let's have them reload it. See, it re-added the chest back in, so the server has to be off when you make these changes. Save it, and then you can rerun it. That's what happened. Because then the server will just reset to the configs to what it was last. So actually, all those configs that I just changed were now reset. So I hope you're listening. So now if I go over here, I'm able to open up their chest because it is no longer blocked by this. And that's because they're offline. If you wanted to make it so that they can open it when they're online, you just delete it there also. And then I can't really demonstrate that because I don't have two people to work with me on this. But anyway, that's what you can do if you want something to be protected when it's offline, or not protected when it's offline. You delete it. If you want it to be protected, you just add it. And then this is just deny usage, so whether or not you want them to be able to use this. I wouldn't recommend allowing them to use this at all. Spout commands and any of this, generally people don't use spout. It's not very big. It's good. It's good, but generally people don't use it, and I don't recommend using it. It's kind of worthless plugin because most people don't use it, and it does, in my experience, I have hosted a server. It doesn't help that much. It does help the person using it, but it doesn't help the server that much with lag. Econ costs to claim wilderness. So this is the amount of cost that it's going to take to claim land. So you can set this to anything. You want to enable the economy plugin first though, so that it works, and then you can set these values to anything. Claim faction bonus, don't change that. Actually, yeah, you don't really want it there to be bonus. So when you claim one piece of land, it's going to go up, and this is the percentage that's going to go up by. So it's going to go up by 0.5%. So let's say I claim one piece of land, then it's going to go up to 45 instead of 30. Refund, so you get 7% or 70% of what you put into the money. That's what you get back. Claim unconnected fee. that's if you have that enabled, then you can make it like super expensive. If you want it to be not connected to your faction, you can make it like super expensive. I wouldn't recommend making it cost any money to create a faction, to set an owner, to set home. These are general functions that need to happen, and I don't recommend changing them. Bank should be enabled if you're doing anything with econ, and that's pretty much it. So the main question was in here, and I am pretty sure I answered it. If you want something to be protected, then you add it in. If you don't want something to be protected, then you delete it. And this is when, for online deny usage and online protected material, so when people are online and in the server in a faction, and this is for when people are offline. Again, if you have further questions, just ask them in the comment section below. I think this was a pretty long video. I hope this was helpful. Again, so you can see that none of this was changed. This is everything that I pretty much had originally. This is then, so make sure that when you do your edits, the server is off, because it will just reset your config to back to what it was originally. And you can see it added the chest back in, but the chest is still here. So anyway, thanks for watching, and come back next time.